Welcome back to the podcast. I am Justin Stacy.
I'm Nate Thomas.
I'm Josh Matney.
And tonight we are talking about why the Thing is the most underrated character in the Addams Family. Right? That's what we agreed upon? That's what we said we're going to do?
Oh,
I'm in agreement.
so totally.
His characterization is amazing because he has no eyes and no lips.
That's right. But think of all the things he does for the family. But in all seriousness, we are discussing the Thing this week. So sit back,
Yes.
relax, put your feet up as we open a bottle of pop culture.
We're gonna talk about some really cool stuff. With Josh, Nate, and I, we're gonna blow this thing up. We're gonna talk about the movies you love. And if you don't, well, that's just tough. But we're gonna talk about shows that are awesome. You'll say, whoa, when we talking about Blossom.
Blossom.
This will be your one and only stop for everything nerdy in a bottle of pop culture.
All right. So John Carpenter's The Thing. This was, I'm pretty confident, my first watch of this thing, pun intended. And I loved it, number one. It's a movie that holds up greatly. But it's weird because I felt like I knew all about the movie. Like I knew. It's weird. I think maybe it's because it's such a pop culture phenomenon. It's in the zeitgeist of the culture that I knew a lot about this movie without needing to watch it.
Well, I mean, there's been so many references in other films, and then you have like board games and video games that have come out in the past. So it's like you kind of have heard it somehow, whether you've seen the movie or not.
Yeah. Yeah, so the game Among Us, that's totally The Thing.
Totally, yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
It's a fun game.
I mean, you know, it's a little different premise. I think you are astronauts or something, right? You're in space, and you're on a space station type thing. So, where do you want to start with The Thing?
Well, I will say it's definitely one of my favorite horror movies, and I think I originally saw it back in middle school. I mean, it was probably on television, so a lot of the good stuff was taken out. But like,
A lot of the good stuff.
but like it was later, like in college, when I actually really watched it, and I was like, this movie really holds up as far as like practical effects go.
I agree.
Being John Carpenter's like best film, I think it's his best film. And, you know, when you look back on it, this movie got slammed in the box office and by critics. They absolutely hated this movie.
And you have to think, I know this, we'll talk about this more too, but you have to think, I watched the trailer first because I always like to do that for movies, especially I haven't seen them. Although I feel like I've seen the thing. I'm like Justin. I honestly couldn't remember much if I'd seen it before. So if I had, I didn't remember. I just knew the plot and the twist, even though in our premiere episode, I was like, oh, it's fantastic. I don't remember watching it, so I don't know. But the trailer gives nothing away.
Yeah.
And I wonder if 40 years ago, if that was like, if it was an example to people of maybe you don't want to watch this. We don't know what it is. I don't know. But it's fantastic.
And also trailers were different back then. I don't think trailers gave as much away as they do now. I feel like now they try to shove way too much in trailers. I absolutely hate.
It can ruin a movie. Trailers can.
You're
like
on
when
it,
I start
man.
seeing too much in a trailer, I automatically feel like this movie's gonna suck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I like to not know a lot going in.
I agree. I think that a lot of what it, was competing against was maybe some of its downfall, with E.T. and the Star Trek movies and a bunch of different things in the 80s.
That was also during like the Cold War or something like that, and so people were probably not really wanting to watch something this like dark and nihilistic.
Yeah, and I think it actually came out 2 weeks after ET, so you had basically, the friendly neighborhood alien first, and then you've got this this thing.
Right.
And so I think that hurt. I also read that there may have been some just discomfort in the whole idea that you could catch something unknown and it morph you. And in the early 80s, this would have been, heavy in the AIDS, top
At
thing.
least at the beginning of it.
Right. So I would bet there's a lot of discomfort just around the topic in general, and it hurt the movie too. But it's obviously it aged well because it's a cult classic.
Yeah. And the special effects artist, Stan Winston was part of this, so he would wind up
But he didn't take a credit.
No, he didn't take the full credit, but like he would, of course, go to be with Jurassic Park, and of course go into making Pumpkinhead in the 90s. So like, of course So I mean, this movie, like if you look at it on a script level, like it has all of the parts it needs to be a hit. But then when you look, of course, like E.T. came out, Portuguese came out, and it just, critics just hated this movie. And now, like retrospect, they praise it, which is hardly you hardly see that with a film being retro. They go back and reevaluate it and then say, "Oh, this movie is great."
Yeah. So this movie was not a movie that John Carpenter actually planned to do. He had signed a new deal with, I think, Universal. And they basically said, your first movie in the deal is this. And this actually is a reboot of a 1951 movie called The Thing from Another Planet. And
the same research. I love it.
Yeah. And I have never seen that movie before. It looks cheesier than I don't know what, but there's one scene that I've seen a clip from today where whoever is the thing is coming into like the quarters, the crew's quarters, and they basically set him on fire. And in 1951, the way they did that is they had the guy in a bodysuit, like a flame resistant bodysuit, and they legit set him on fire and threw kerosene on him. Like
his acting was amazing. No, he was on fire.
He was literally on fire, and I was like, "That's crazy. That would never fly in Hollywood today."
And he almost looks like a Frankenstein.
Yes, it was like a Frankenstein.
Yeah, so I was like, this is such an odd, but it was 1950, so of course practical effects wasn't that great, but like it's just you compared when you think of The Thing, you think of John Carpenter's The Thing. You never go back and I think of the 1950 version. But now when I think of the Wolfman or Frankenstein, I do think of the 1930s or the 1940s black and white films.
Which it's really not a real remake. It's a similar vein. It's really not the same story.
And a little fun fact, in the Halloween movie, on the television screen, the kids are actually watching the 1950s The Thing.
Yes, they are.
I didn't remember that.
They are. And it has the same opening, the same title, like the font for The Thing. They use all that's the same between the two movies. It's pretty cool. It goes to show you that you can reboot a movie. I mean, even though this may have been more than a reboot, since it seems like they changed a lot of the script.
To me, this is like a true reimagining, or
a reimagining is probably a good word. Yeah, and it can work. So we should not just blast reboots for the sake of reboots. They can work.
Some of them are excellent.
Yeah.
Like, this film had of course they had like the nihilistic themes to it, but you had paranoia, you had of course violence as a theme. And then there is a thing I watched about how to make a true scary film. Like you have the gore aspect of it, the psychological aspect of it, and you got the terror aspect of it. And this movie could wind up using all three of those in one scene. And a good example is when the thing is on the table and they're trying to and the guy gets like his arms ripped off.
Right.
So you
When
had
the
like,
stomach
and then
opens up
eventually,
to a mouth. Yeah.
yeah. So like all that can be encapsulated in that one scene, and it's just, I mean, I could rewatch this movie so many times and still love it.
I agree. The over the top cheesiness with the horror elements and the CGI, I love in this movie. And normally I don't love it. Normally I when I go back and see an older movie that has this campy, cheesy, you know, see what. And again, it's a period piece, so it's the best they had at the time.
Yeah.
But looking at it from modern eyes, it's hard sometimes. But this movie, I love it that they have all of that. So, yeah.
And one of the things they complained about this film was like none of the characters were well developed or something. But you know, if you really think about it, this movie is one of those rare times you don't need a whole lot of background for characters, because like they're stuck in Antarctica in this like
they're a military team. What more do you need?
Yeah, like you don't really need like, and even if you did have all this background, it'd just be kind of wasted information. And I mean, to me, I feel like the idea of like, you know, going in not really knowing a whole lot about them just kind of works because you're isolated. And then you got like almost like cabin fever type of
comes out that has no prequel. Yeah. What movie comes out that you know all about the characters anyway? None. Yep. And I like that the characters were not inherently stupid.
Yeah. And honestly, this is a realistic point of view of what would happen. Like people will turn on each other and then like
nobody deserved to die.
Yeah.
You know, when you watch a scary movie, like that one deserves to die, that one deserves to die. Can't wait for her death scene. Can't wait for his death scene. This wasn't that.
Yeah, there was no true, other than the Thing, quote unquote, there was no true antagonist in this movie. All of the people there were decent people.
Right.
And it wasn't until they become assimilated that they turned. So it's such an interesting movie. So I've got a
little. If you didn't like, I mean, I didn't know this until, of course, when I read more into this. But like the opening scene where the Norwegians are trying to like warn the Americans, whatever, they were pretty much saying like that dog is infected. Don't let it get, you know. So if you actually knew what they were saying, that kind of gave away the whole like, you know, idea of what's gonna happen.
It really shows you how important communication is, or the lack of communication. I mean, the fact they couldn't understand Norwegian is the reason why this entire movie happened.
And this is one of those rare films where I don't really want a sequel or a prequel. Like what I got is, this is all I need. Because like you got enough of like, this thing has traveled across the universe, has devoured multiple species. I mean, that alone is kind of scary. Like, because there is no true form. It just has all types of DNA. So I mean, that's why it is a thing. There's no way to describe it.
So is the spaceship the Thing's spaceship, or is it just the species that the Thing took over and took its ship?
Yeah.
That's what I read yesterday, the day before, whenever I read it.
That's what I'm
going to choose to believe. That's my head canon.
I like that one. Yeah.
It's like, here, Earth, take this.
You really don't know what its true form is.
Right. And I appreciate that. I can see why it wasn't hit at the box office. In 2022, if this movie comes out, people are going to complain. We didn't know enough. It was too dark. There was no resolution. Well, the fact of the matter is that's why it's a classic.
Exactly. Also, I love the music in John Carpenter's movies.
Oh yeah.
They're iconic. And even in this one too, the music is just amazing.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
The guy who wrote the soundtrack, Enrico Morricone, wrote the music for, among others, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Nice.
Wow.
So that whistle, I'm not even going to attempt to do it. It's him. And that's why a lot of this music appealed to me. Although I know John Carpenter put his own spin on some of it.
Yeah.
He always is involved in the music. Like in almost in every film he has made, he has either done the music or been a part of it somehow.
Yeah.
He's such a talented composer.
I was curious. This is not something that I really paid attention to as I was watching the movie, But I am curious if I went back to watch it again.
Excuse me.
Anytime that the main thing plays, the boom boom, the bass, I wonder if that happened prior to a reveal, prior to a thing sighting, because in Halloween, the Halloween theme is basically keys on when Michael Myers is doing whatever. So I'm wondering if it's a tie-in to like when that theme is playing, there is a theme sighting, and I don't know the answer to that, but it seems like on at least one or two occasions that was the case. I would have to go back and watch to see if that's every case.
The music escalates when the thing is sighted. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's like with any, like, I feel like any of the horror films I've seen, well, most of them that is by John Carpenter, like in Christine, whenever something's going to happen with the car, you hear the music starting to build. And then when it actually does occur, the music just goes a little like it's louder and more epic.
I forget about him being involved with Christine. I'm glad
like
you
he is
that.
he is like, to me, I know he's very popular, but I still feel like he gets slept on like being recognized as how good he is.
Well, because everybody wants to say all he ever did was Halloween.
Yeah.
And he's done a lot more than Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would even say that Halloween, like as much as I love it, not his best film. Like,
yeah. So I read something, I guess some behind the scenes type things with this, and they said that one of the things they did to increase the paranoia and the trust or the distrust for the cast to help them get in character is they didn't reveal to anyone who the thing was while they were shooting. And the only time, basically when they found out who the next person that was infected by the thing was when they shot the scene where they transformed.
Nice.
I was like, that's amazing. That is so good that they did that.
I just feel like you don't get that hardly a lot with like good scary movies, because like everybody already knows where, like, or you get like script leaks or something like that, and it it's very rare that you get like situations where like you really don't know, like the cast doesn't know who is who. And I mean,
and honestly, I don't think there was a weak link as far as acting goes.
No.
In this entire movie, like all the actors was spot on in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know, that Wilford Brimley guy's never going to be anything.
No, never.
He's never going to be popular or well known.
I did not realize that was Wilford Brimley until after I watched it, and then I was just doing the research, and then I seen the name, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, the diabetes guy."
I mean, you also have like Keith David. He's very iconic.
He's still the man.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell's been famous forever.
Mm-hmm.
He's the man.
Yep. That was really good. So, Patient Zero, who was the official Patient Zero in this movie? I mean, we know the dog was, but besides the dog, who was the official Patient Zero? And do we know exactly who it was?
I don't think it's revealed. Now Josh is a bigger fan than I, but I love the mystery. I love the scene when the dog comes down the hall and you see the shadow of the man in his room, which is John Carpenter's shadow. And the dog goes in and it just fades away. And you're like, oh, that's nice. No, it's not. That's got to be the first guy, right?
It is.
Or is it the guy that the dog licks outside? Or is it, I don't know.
Speaking of the dog, let's think of that scene and how great an acting job the dog did.
Oh, that's crazy. Like nowadays, everybody just uses a CGI dog, which is total BS.
That dog was amazing.
Yeah. Like, and not just that one, but even all the ones in the kennel, like the one trying to break out, like he was literally biting on the door
through the fence.
I'm just like, you can't get that now. It's like, oh, throw some bullshit CGI. Here you go. Like,
right.
It's like, what the heck?
50 cents to the swear jar.
Oh,
$1 to the swear jar.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, it was really amazing. I read that the kennel scene with all the dogs, it took about 4 takes for that, and there was at least 1 or 2 fake dogs in there. Yeah, they had more like robotic dogs or whatever. But for the most part, it was actual dogs, and so they just did the scenes over and over until the dogs did kind of what they wanted them to do, and that's patience and impressive for dog acting. So I really enjoyed that.
Are you having behavioral problems out of your loving doggo? If so, let our Norwegian dog whisperers here at the Antarctica Outpost Boarding and Kennel provide their gentle touch in helping teach your canine how to be a good boy or girl. What about the number 2? Does your four-legged friend still have the oopsies? Our experts here at the Antarctica Outpost Boarding and Kennel can help with that as well. They will teach your little loved one when and where to do the oopsie poopsies. Maybe your dog needs no training. No problem. Here at the Antarctica Outpost Boarding and Kennel, we also provide day spa and vacation boarding services for your fur baby. Need to get away with the family for a week without the hassle of a pet-friendly destination? Our staff here at the Antarctica Outpost Boarding and Kennel will provide a loving environment for your pooch, as if they are one of their own. So bring your pet on down to the Antarctica Outpost Boarding and Kennel, and let us show you why our motto is Kom der weg der daughter.
I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I don't think that they necessarily revealed, and that's what I liked about the movie is there's so many questions we still have now, and that's why we continue talking about the movie.
Like they felt like they were not. I think he froze.
Fantastic. I watched this movie and I think, that I can remember, I've seen it once. This is one that's going to be added to my collection.
Yeah.
I want the Blu-ray with the special features or whatever comes next. This is one that it has to be in the top 10. I don't even know if horror is it more of a thriller?
It's definitely horror. But like it definitely leans on the more sci-fi horror.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Sci-fi horror.
But like to me, of course there's so many iconic scenes in this movie, but like to me, the dog pen is one of my favorites because not only do you see the dog or the thing transform, but then you just see all the tentacles and all the like the liquids spewing out, and
very gory.
And it's like I know some of the techniques they would use, they would like kind of do reverse filming where they would film it and then reverse it so it looks like it's like crawling, but really it's actually done the opposite way, because they did it with Christine or like when they were showing like the car being or revitalizing itself. So what they did, they just reversed that whole entire scene to make it look like it was actually transforming. But like that, and the course, the scene where they're on the table, they're ripping the thing apart, trying to get all that whole
that was awesome.
I was struck by the clip of, is it Child's?
Yeah,
that
Child's.
Can't be right. Child's head, and there's the one tentacle, and it's just slowly inching away. Oh, fantastic.
The Child's was the last guy that made it with MacReady there at the end.
No, it's not Child's. I take it back. That's enough. Whoever that was with the head.
Was it Norris?
Norris. That's Norris.
I think it was Norris. He kind of had the long neck with the head. I think that was Norris. And in my opinion, if there was a reveal for the Patient Zero, I think Norris was it. I mean, he was sort of the first one that revealed that he was the Thing.
Yes.
And the shadow itself, even though it was, I think it was maybe John Carpenter or something. It wasn't any of the cast that did that shadow. It looked enough like Norris I think that maybe that is the hint, but who knows? But yeah, I think
this does leave you this movie does leave like so many ideas open to, you can kind of go with it. And, the only thing that's, solid, like one of the things that was solid was like when they were doing the blood auger test, like they were taking the copper on the blood on the auger and just like, that was so awesome and fun to watch.
It was, yeah.
Because could you just imagine seeing this for the first time and then being like, it's not going to be MacReady, So like that's
Mhm.
kind of a given. But then like at least not yet. But like you do wonder like, well, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Childs? Is it going to be Palmer? Is it going to
Mhm.
Listen to you with all the names. I'm still not clear on all of them.
I
I
have
gotta
all the
watch
names
this movie again.
wrote down. So
I didn't. I tried to take no notes so I could just watch the movie.
Mhm.
And I probably need to do a better job of that. It was when they're taking the knife and they're cutting into their fingers, or the scalpel, excuse me.
Yeah.
Look, I understand it's special effects. I'm still like, oh,
yeah, I
come
cringe from
on.
that.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
That's the only time I cringed, I believe,
So
because
here's
it
a
was up in
question.
your face. Sorry.
Blair, he was the one that really figured out how this thing works, how it infects people, how it spreads, and then he basically goes crazy.
Mhm.
You know, essentially
story.
he's trying to destroy any way for the team to be able to communicate and or leave that facility. He understands that they are all going to be infected probably,
Right.
and
Right.
everybody sees him as him having a psychotic breakdown, but really I think he was doing what should have been done probably. But when was it you think that he was infected? Because at that point he wasn't infected. He wouldn't have done that if he was the thing. At that point, I don't think we got an on-screen reveal. But when do you all think that?
I truly think it's when he's actually messing around with like the actual body parts and like
Has to be.
yeah,
That he
that's my
infected
only
himself essentially.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
even though like he had gloves on, but let's face it, that wasn't really that sanitary. He jumped diving
No.
into it, and and heck, like, how do you even get infected? Really, does it always have to be like a cut or something? Like because like you saw the blood move in the
When it was doing this.
yeah. So who's to say it didn't like just crawl up and just get inside your ear or something?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I gotta watch it again. Can we reconvene and come back in 2 hours? I gotta watch it again tonight in the dark. I don't
That's
think
right.
so.
But like, yeah, I think him having that psychotic breakdown, like it was necessary because this is one of those situations where like, well, if one person gets out, then they're just going to keep spreading it, and then the planet's doomed in like what, a couple of days or something.
Yeah,
What do you
The
say?
way it
3.2
spreads.
years,
Mhm.
3.2 months.
something like that.
It was a short time. Even if it's 3 years, that's no time.
And what leaves just how many other like civilizations and stuff has been infected by this thing prior to Earth.
Yeah,
I don't want to know. I
Yeah.
love the mystery.
That's the psychology part of it, like the psychological part of it, because like it's like you almost don't want to know, but at the same time you kind of do.
mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't. I think what would be fascinating, and there probably is in the 40 years since the movie's been released, I would love to see just a side story.
Mm-hmm.
It's not related. It's not attached. It's just a side story of this species somewhere else.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think there was a video game back in the 2000s, and I think it was called The Thing or something. It was, and I think it was actually canon. John Carpenter approved it as being a canon to the story, but I really don't remember how the whole thing went.
So
it's so good.
One of my notes is, did Fuchs actually kill himself? Like I think that was kind of when they found his clothes, they just said, it looks like he's killed himself for whatever. Did he kill himself for whatever reason, or did one of the infected things take him out? I mean, we probably don't know, but I'm curious if y'all speculated on that.
I mean, I like the idea of like, I mean, I don't like it, but like, I truly think somebody did it.
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody, and it could have been the doctor, it could,
I bet that I'll go with that. It's the doctor.
Yeah. And that's what's so messed up about this movie. Like, it makes the whole paranoia of the people you're around even more bigger, because now you can't trust anybody. Because this, Fuchs is dead. So who is it? Did the thing? Because I don't see the thing set itself on fire. If he is truly that infected, that is. Maybe he had some bit of like normalcy left, and he set himself on fire. But if he was too far gone, I don't see the thing doing it.
It's also interesting that the way they kind of play this thing off is it doesn't really help itself on the species level.
Mm-hmm.
It cares about its individual self, like whatever individual self that it has. It cares about survival of its individual self. It doesn't necessarily care about the survival of its species.
Nope.
So you don't have all of these things necessarily working together, and that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, like that. I never thought about that. But yeah, like you do have this creature that's seriously just eating to survive. It's not doing it to procreate or anything. It's just strictly to eat and survive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
There's probably a bigger picture there. I got to think about it now.
And that's what kind of makes some of John Carpenter's films good. Is like there's always a mystery to them. Sorry, Nate. My bad.
No, you're good. I have nothing.
But like having that mystery, it's what I love about this. This is one of those few times where I don't really want a whole lot of background. But I mean, I know some people do, but I'm like, I'm okay with not having a whole lot of background. I think it's kind of what makes all the other Halloweens kind of weaker, because they're trying to add so much detail and background to it. It's like, I'm fine with just the way the first one was.
Yeah. Agreed. So one of the things you brought up, Josh, is just kind of the filming style of filming in reverse type thing. I read one of the things they did filming this is the helicopter scene where MacReady goes with the two others. I forget who he actually goes with, Palmer and one other, I think to the Norwegian base, right? And it's already on fire. It's already completely destroyed. Apparently, what they did is they filmed that scene after all the other scenes, and after when they burned down the base that they were using for filming, post 31. Then they did the helicopter scene, and they flew the helicopter in back to that same base to where it's already on fire. So it's just literally the same base. It's just the base now that it's burned down.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So that's kind of cool. Save some money that way.
John Carpenter is just like really good at his job.
Yep.
And I know originally they wanted to throw in Toby Hooper to do this, the guy who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I guess at the time John Carpenter was still just mainly an independent director. So they were like, well, let's try Hooper, but they could not settle on a script. They couldn't settle on like a direction. So it got scrapped a couple of times, and then eventually they went back to John Carpenter. And I guess to me, I think he was a fan of the original. Well, he is a fan of the original, but like,
right.
I feel like he actually knew the story, so it kind of helped.
Yeah,
and I know because the movie flopped, it cost Carpenter a part of that deal, right?
Yeah, he
Right.
like felt
that.
Yeah. He felt like he had a huge failure on his, and I guess it is, but like, looking back on you, just like, but it's such a good film.
Yeah.
But then again, it doesn't, but
films that way.
Movie studios look at numbers. They don't look at, quality of stuff like that.
Well, obviously not. Transformers movies keep getting made. And they're all terrible.
I don't know. I like some of them, at least.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But they're all terrible.
Michael Bay.
Them being terrible has nothing to do with whether or not you like them.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I like too.
Yeah, some movies I think is ahead of its time, and I think this was one of them.
I don't think if it came out today, it'd be a bigger hit.
No,
I think we'll be having the same conversation in 30 years. It was ahead of its. I think it was always going to be ahead of its time because there's no resolution, there's no villain, there's no real hero. Kurt Russell is the main character.
Yeah,
he's who you root for. He's not a good guy.
No. Like he really goes like he gets really paranoid. So like he's holding like the C4 and he's willing to blow everybody up because like he knows what's going to happen. Like we're not getting out alive.
Yeah. So I think one of the most talked about things in for the movie is the last scene, the ending scene.
Yes.
And everybody's obviously speculating which one of these, or both of them, is the thing, because, or is either of them the thing, right? What are your all's theories? And then
I'll let you guys go first because I thought about this a lot.
I did too.
You want to say neither one is the thing. And then you want to say Kurt Russell's human. And then you want to say, Childs is human, but he was gone for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to say, oh, they're both the thing. And then you want to say, well, John Carpenter said MacReady's human. And then you want to say, well, the expanded universe said, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't want to know the definitive answer. I don't want to know. That's the beauty of the film.
It is.
That's
It's
the
the beauty
beauty
of
of the ending. We don't need a sequel. We don't need an explanation. We don't need a comic book, although I'll bet you anything there is one.
Oh yeah, there's definitely comic books to this
It's
thing.
beautiful.
And that's exactly why people didn't like it at first, because like it didn't have that happy ending like everything else was having at the time. But in a way, it's like it's realistic though. Like, what do you do in something like this? You just let them. Obviously, burn it can help, but it's still gonna just one little piece is still going to survive.
Yeah.
So freezing and staying there in Antarctica is probably the only solution for it, unless somebody else digs it back up.
I like the line when Childs looks at him and he says, how are we going to survive? And he said, maybe we shouldn't. I love that line. And
I'm all over it.
Yeah. I've obviously speculated, and there's a lot of crazy theories too about how you determine which one is the thing. Like, did you all read about the Molotov cocktail?
I did.
I was like, that's crazy. But someone thought up the idea that if the thing is assimilating someone that they can't actually taste, and I don't know how they come up with that idea that they can't actually taste, but that's why when he reaches the supposed whiskey over and then he drinks and then he laughs about it, MacReady laughs about it after he drinks, that's basically him knowing in his head, I know this is a thing because that's actually gasoline type thing.
Right.
I truly think it's Childs.
The thing is Childs.
The reason is like, I do think it's Childs. And I think people from the production has stated that it was Childs, but like the reason I think it is like, if you notice in the scene when they're talking, he's the only one that doesn't have, or his breath isn't showing. Like MacReady's breath is showing, but he is just talking right with him, and you don't see, any
I read that, but forgot to look for it.
Yeah, I definitely seen that. And there was also speculation that when you become assimilated, basically the thing destroys your clothing. Like it just completely destroys your body, and your clothing's ripped off and all this stuff. And they said that Childs, the last scene that you've seen him in, he was wearing some blue jacket or something, and then when in this scene it is like a gray jacket. But I almost think that his jacket in the last scene is just snow covered. I don't think that it's necessarily a different jacket per se. I just think it's frozen, it's snow covered, so it looks like it's different color. So I'm not convinced that Childs is. I actually think MacReady is. I think MacReady was maybe even Patient Zero, or not Patient Zero, not from the dog per se, but he wasn't the Shadow, but I think he's been the thing through almost the entire film, just simply because they find the MacReady green jacket so early on ripped up, and I felt like that was a huge clue that MacReady's actually a thing in this entire thing. And he's probably the smartest version of the thing because he completely has the trust of the entire group. So he's going to survive it. And so that's my speculation. I think that he is the thing, a thing.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
And that's what's so great about this film. You can just leave those speculations up in the air and just talk about it. Like,
absolutely.
That's why I do go back to this film a lot, because like even though I think it's this, I'm still like, is there something I missed?
Yep.
Like
more movies should do this, because that's how you make it through generation of fandom, is leaving these cliffhangers or these unanswered questions for fan theories and speculation. That's how you keep something alive.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like a different generation of horror. Like, you do got the so-called elevated horror, but I mean, you still don't have something like this.
mm-hmm.
Like, you got the more what do you call it, A24 style films coming out,
Mm-hmm.
but for some reason, like, I don't know, these like John Carpenter, like The Thing, it's just such an iconic film. Like, nobody has been able to re-imitate this or imitate this at all.
Yeah, what I like in my horror films, I guess I would consider this horror, even though when I was going in thinking it was more a thriller, but I
Mhm.
do think it's probably horror. But what I like about
has to
John
be.
Carpenter horror is the story. I just I think I've said this before. I'm not a fan of slasher films, just in general. Like a slasher film that's all about just gore, Rob Zombie films. I do not want to watch any of those. Because I think it's just all gore. It's all about the shock of seeing a lot of gore on screen, and I don't care about that. I care about the actual story, and I think this was a good story.
And if
Would
you
you
even go back and
believe-
watch the original Halloween, it's like a precursor to slashers, really. Because
Mhm.
like at that point, there really wasn't, like, the slasher genre really wasn't that of a thing. The only other film that came close to that was Black Christmas. So you have, I mean, really, that was like the only one that John Carpenter really directed, and
Mhm.
everyone after that was a legit slasher.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's he's good, and like, he knows how to drive a story.
Yeah.
I have, on a side unrelated note that I'm not proud of, I have seen all 3 movies of Rob Zombie's Firefly trilogy.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Do you like them?
No. Can I just say that House of a Thousand Corpses is not very good.
Okay.
The Devil's Rejects is a brilliant film for what it is.
Hmm.
Mm.
And what is the last one? 3 from Hell
Yeah, that one was terrible.
It's the worst of the 3. In my
What made
opinion.
me mad about that film was, like, I thought it should have been just a duology. The Devil's Rejects ended the way it should have, like them being part of the shootout, and then maybe he just did this for a paycheck. I don't know, but like, it just seemed like it made Devil's Rejects ending less of an impact. Like, I hate when movies do that. Like, it's like you have this dramatic, epic ending, and then you completely just ignore that and create a sequel that's okay. We'll just scrap that, and this is what really happened. It's like, okay, well, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, I once Justin said that, I said I have to confess I've seen those 3. Those are the only movies of his I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I've seen the Halloween reboot that he did.
I never did.
Okay.
I mean, he
good
did,
stuff.
like, I will say, like, I did enjoy his second Halloween film more. Oh, like,
Mhm.
originally I didn't, but now that I've kind of went back a couple of times, I do like some things he did with that. He actually made the mask more of a character, which I never noticed until I went back and rewatched it. So, like,
I haven't seen it.
when he has the mask, that's when he, like, almost becomes Michael Myers, if that makes sense. Like, he is Michael Myers, but like, when he puts the mask on, it's like something's happening. Like, so the mask becomes part of him. Where, like, in the original films, it's like just to hide his face. Like, it's really not like used as something that's truly part of him. I think that's just my take on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're very, like, divided when it comes to the fans and whatever.
Right. All right. Well, we need to come up with the next movie and/or show and/or cartoon that we're going to tackle for next episode. So
But we know if we leave it up to you, it's going to be multiple episodes of some cartoon from the 90s.
that's probably true. That's probably true. So you
But it's
have our
probably your turn.
handy dandy list available, Nate?
I do have all the lists handy.
Okay.
I told you I would keep them. I'm that bro.
Thank you.
All right. Now, if I'm doing this right, Stacy really pushed the pandemic episodes of South Park, and that was cool.
I did.
Star Trek seemed to be my thing, and I think Matney, this was his recommendation. All, in my opinion, have been great conversations.
Absolutely.
So if we're rotating, Justin, you go between Justin and Stacy. I'm not sure what you're going to really be. We've kind of removed Fringe for now. We've kind of removed No Way Home for right now, although we can bring it back. Spider-Man No Way Home. You've got Hawkeye, you've got Loki still on your you've got Blank Check. The woman across the street with the hole in her pocket at the bottom of the lake is yours. Jetson and Flintstones movie is yours. Arnold, Power Rangers was all yours. But you don't have to do any of those.
What do you all think of doing the Flintstones movie from the 90s?
I can do
the one with John Goodman, I hope.
Yes.
Okay, I can handle that one.
Yeah.
I can do it. I got to find it.
Yeah.
I saw that when I was a kid and I enjoyed it, but like
it's a good one.
Yeah. But I was also like a fan of the cartoon, so I
love the Flintstones. It's one of my favorites. But the movie holds up as being a really, really good movie. So if you are a good,
it is on Hulu.
Okay,
cool.
I'm looking it up while we're talking.
Okay, there we go.
It says it's on Netflix. According to this, I'm just going to keep while we're talking.
Yeah, maybe it's on multiple things.
I mean, listen, John Goodman is a national treasure. That's a talk for another time. That cat is amazing.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he was able to kind of do like a full season of Roseanne and then do movies aside from, like, I don't see how he did it. Like, because he was still
late 80s, early 90s. He was one of the most popular actors, period.
Like, I don't think, because like Roseanne was still on the air when he did like Big Lebowski and I think maybe
and King Ralph, an underrated classic of all time. I'll die on that hill. King Ralph is underrated.
I'll have to go back and rewatch that.
All right, good stuff. I'm sure we will discuss plenty of John Goodman next week. But yeah, that sounds good to me. I would like, I mean, at some point I want to watch some actual cartoons as well. But this is cartoonish because it's based on a cartoon.
I mean, we can do a cartoon. I don't care. Because most of the stuff that you have on the list I've seen, I can probably watch still.
Yeah, with the cartoons, I wouldn't want to watch more than a few episodes and talk about them, But I definitely want to talk about this movie. So that would be my choice if it's up to me.
Cool deal.
All right, good stuff. All right. So as always, I have us a quote to leave us with from The Thing. And I feel like this is a very poignant quote for the way society is now. So it's probably the best quote we could close with. Nobody trusts anybody now. And we're all very tired. See you, everyone.
See you.
Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. We hope that we were able to entertain you at least for a spell. If you see value in our craziness and want to continue supporting us, please follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our videos, and share our content with someone you may know. Also, let us know how we're doing. Make suggestions for the podcast. Leave us a comment. Heck, send us an email. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the Bottle of Pop Culture podcast.